says contemplation makes the truth known in legal proceedings. Intellectual lucidity provides consolations and compensations. God is the highest being, desire to know, the acquisition of wisdom. Seeing divine in the eyes of others, deep bonds, love, life-changing connections, removing your armor, being seen, pineal gland communication, being thankful.
Before we have a channel from Kryon, and perhaps instead of a meditation, I'm going to just say a few affirmations, and they're inspired by the questions that we had, and also they're inspired from information Kryon gave once in channel when I was in Germany. And the phrase Kryon gave us to say, it was almost like a challenge. Kryon was challenging us on a daily basis to say, I accept the perfect love of God. So let's play with those words as we prepare for that channel. And let's begin by saying, I am willing to accept the perfect love of God. How does that feel for you? I am willing. I'm willing to accept the perfect love of God. And now let's move into saying, I accept the perfect love of God. I accept the perfect love of God. I accept the perfect love of God. And one final affirmation, I now invite you to say silently or aloud, I am the perfect love of God. I am the perfect love of God. I am the perfect love of God. Thank you, dearest Kryon, for bringing us the perfect love of God.
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. And so the subject seems to be love. It's my favorite, you know. There's more to it than you think. I'll be speaking perhaps some of these same words through this month, talking about the incredible love of that which is God, which is truly the creative source of all things. Perhaps you should erase what you've been told, what you think of how much God loves you, even that, because it's not completely true. God loves you more than that. That's the truth. Hard to understand the kind of love that comes your way. But if I told you that this you call love has a completely different name, or perhaps a completely different perception from us to you. What if I told you that within your DNA, there are attributes of love in your DNA? What if I told you that part of the double helix itself vibrates a certain way with love? Now, that's a little different than you were told. For humans, love is an emotion. It's a great emotion. And it's an emotion that comes and it goes. And what I mean by that, you receive it and you give it. It comes in and you're also able to send it out. This is an interesting concept because not all emotions are that way. Some of them are. In the case of love, you can transmit it way, way beyond the room you're in. In so many of the other emotions you feel, you can transmit them to the bubble around you, but not much more. There's something about love. What do you know about love and compassion that you've been told esoterically? Now for many years, perhaps even the guests on this show. That it lives in the field, that it can be transmitted long distance around the world, that you can love somebody dearly and imagine that they're receiving it, and they will. That is esoterics at its best. It also tells you that this thing you call love is multidimensional. More than an emotion, dear ones. I'm going to give you an axiom before this channel finishes, a little about what it is. I gave a channel earlier. In other times, and I gave it many times, it started to explain the attributes of some of the things that you have. Love is one of them. We've told you about things in the past that were hidden in plain sight. We've given you some of the attributes of your soul, but none of them, nothing I've ever told you, is as powerful as this one. Let's go back to your DNA for a moment. The DNA that you have is enormous. You have no idea unless you study it. There are billions of pieces to it. And it's more than just simply the blueprint of the body. That DNA of yours, in its enormity, carries attributes of your past life. These things are not all contained, for instance, in your brain, as you thought they might be. So if your DNA carries attributes of your past life, what else might it carry? It carries your lineage. It carries that which is the marker that says how many times you've been on the earth. The DNA that you have, the multidimensional part, is the biggest part. Scientists have wondered why it is that the biological part of DNA, the genes, only occupy about 3% of the many billion parts that they had. This discovery was revealed in 2012, almost like the rest of it was an instruction book for your life, to how to put them together, how to make them work. Oh, but there's more than that. That's where all of this information is stored. And among that information is a process, a big one, that's triggered by love. I want you to hang on here for good. This isn't a new premise. This is the love month. So I want to give it to you. And I want to give it to you in a way you can understand.
I don't really understand love that much.
There are some things in biology that you'll say have cascading effects. That when one thing happens, it triggers another. And it triggers another. And it triggers another. Because the body is balanced and it wants to stay balanced. Now these cascading effects are often things that you hear that are negative. And they have to do with poor health. The one I'm going to tell you is a cascading effect that is the most positive effect you ever have heard. And it starts right in your DNA. You might say you have receptors in your DNA for love, both for receiving and transmitting. The human being is a wonderful transmitter of compassion and love. Because the multidimensional antenna you have, dear ones, is magnificent. Magnificent. And once you cue into it, and know that it's working and know how to receive and transmit, something happens. I'll tell you, when you start receiving that love from Spirit, in the way that we've given you even today, and you relax and understand that you are part of all of creation, and you relax with the incredible love that's pouring into you, and you take your subconscious and put it out of the way no matter what you've been told, and it starts to pour in through the greatest source that ever was, it allows you to then pour it forward. That is to start transmitting it. When those two things happen, the reception and the transmission of this power called love, not the emotion, but the essence of the Creator, when that starts to pass through you, there is a cascading effect that is triggered in your DNA. And let me tell you what it does. It starts to heal you. Everything you've asked for, the problems, the fear, the anxiety, the biological issues, all of it starts to snap in place. What if I told you that this cascading issue is called health and balance? If you want health and balance right now on this planet, start transmitting love. Start receiving love. And that is what happens. It is the catalyst for everything that you've asked for. There's another one. You know this one is good too. It's an emotion. There's one that I'll put it in category 2 because this is category 1. And it does the same thing, only it you can feel right away, and it's called joy and laughter. It disarms fear, joy and laughter. It disarms hate and anxiety and all of these things. And you can feel it. You can feel the release of it. Now amplify that 10 times, 15 times. You become a transmitter of love. And your whole body starts to change. Aches and pains start to go away. Diseases you've had start to diminish. You start to realize that you're living longer. All of these things are biological. All of them. And they're right in your DNA, and that's part of what all of that 90% of DNA is that has been so mysterious. There are processes there. Processes you may never discover as a human being that are esoteric, that are multidimensional, and that are so real. Ask somebody who's had an awakening, that's gone from despair and worry and trouble and started to receive beautiful love and then start to be compassionate to others, something happens. And their whole body starts to react. Some say they shake with the realizations of what they didn't know, and the cascading effect begins, and it starts to heal them of all that is wrong. That's love. Love is used uniformly, and it's often thrown away. Well, I love that person, or it all starts with love, or there's nothing but love, and all of this. But that is a truth, and it came from somewhere. It's in your DNA. If you are serious about any of this, especially in this love month, this is where it starts. It is the catalyst for all things. If someone says, well, I'm having trouble with this disease, or I wish I could get rid of this fear, or this or that, and we say, if you'll go to love, it starts the process. And they'll go, no, I don't think so. I've got to do this, and this, and there's a process here and there. You say, no, we're telling you where the cascade starts. We're telling you where the source of the healing begins. I've given you a truism today. And some of you will know it's real, it's true. It's part of you, it's the process of you. And are you surprised that the love of God, the Creator, which is the greatest thing that you could say is in the universe, is also part of your healing and part of your cascading DNA for health? Would you be shocked, or would you say, oh, now I understand, and it makes sense? These things should make sense, dear ones. That you are part of the creative source, that you're part of the love that is yours anytime you want. The door is open. It's already there. Now take it. I'm crying in love with all of you for who you are, what you've done, what you're discovering, what's about to happen. And so it is.
With that information, I invite you to close your eyes and take a moment to cognize that information, that there is an entire entourage on the other side of the veil that knows exactly what is happening on Earth. There is a spotlight being shone on you, if you wish to say, that is giving you love and support for everything you are doing right now. And whether that's your own journey of self-healing, or whether that's your journey of being in service to helping others heal, that is seen and acknowledged by the other side of the veil. That support is there for you, because what you do truly does matter. Your life matters in ways you cannot even conceive of. And each time you have an aha epiphany, it changes the very fabric of the universe. So what does that say about how magnificent you are? And how important you are? And how loved beyond measure you are? And so now we allow a little space to hear from that magnetic master who gave us that phrase, "You are dearly loved."
Greetings, dear ones. I am Kryon of Magnetic Service. So indeed, it seems like this entire program for this Healing Wednesday is about help from the other side. This may seem to be a review, but you can't hear it too often. The other side of the veil is a caring energy. And it's not what you were told. When you take a look at that which you are told about God, God is not necessarily that approachable. God does not then feature information about a grand soul that you have that is packed, filled with systems of help. The knowledge you get in major religion about God does not tell you about the entourage that each one of you has, truly, that is there to watch you with its hand held out to you so many times, if you choose to take it. There have been so many questions come to this program about being in the circle of 12 and feeling and knowing that you are being healed, and yet when it's over, it all comes back to some reality where you're not being healed, or you're struggling to maintain that information and that feeling and that multidimensionality in the circle of 12, and you snap back to a reality and it's just not good enough. The answer is, dear ones, you cannot turn this on and off. There there is a wonderful healing due to you. Due to you. In other words, it's there and it's ready. It's on a shelf that says your name, be healed. And you're picking it up in that envelope and you're holding it while you're in the circle of 12, and you put it back in the envelope on the shelf and you leave. And what I want to tell you is that for you, there is so much more here. And that so much more is the ability for you to decide to cognize and believe that when you leave the circle of 12, the entourage stays with you. Now, some of you have said, well, I'm trying to do that. So many will tell you, stop trying. And instead, call upon Spirit and say things like, Dear Spirit, I'm having trouble with this. Please let the entourage stay with me. Give me a sign they're here. Let me understand and feel they're always with me. So when I go to the circle of 12, I understand it's no different than when I'm walking around my home. It's no different than when I'm sleeping, that they're always there. There's so many who doubt that this is even a reality. After all, how many of you learned in your Sunday schools or any other places, or even in your meditation chambers, or how many of you were taught that you have angels and guides with you all the time? There is still this 3D idea that you've got to pick yourself up and do something in order to garner that which is the grace of God in your life. I want to ask you, if you've had parents who loved you, really loved you, and you could feel their love, if you were fortunate to have that, I'll ask you this. Did you have to beat down any doors for their love? Did you have to climb stairs or do activities or whatever in order to get them, get their attention? And the answer is no. All you did was show up and you could see the love. Hopefully you had some parents like this. They're out there, dear ones. Many of them. What is the difference between the love of a parent and a child and the love of God for you? And that is this, that the love of God for you is 100, 200, 10,000 times as much. But it's the same compassionate love. And it's in the same way. You might say, Dear Spirit, take my hand. And in that you are giving permission for Spirit to do all of these things, for God to be part of your life in a personal way, instead of that which you've been taught. For those who are having trouble keeping the feeling of the circle of 12, it's because there is a 3D construct that you've been trained into that says that you are not magnificent, or there is no angelics that come with you. But there are. Not only that, they're always there. You don't even have to call them in. I'll give you a premise I've given you many times before. The majority of humanity comes into this planet, and in comes with them all of the angelic help they'll ever need. All of it is there. When they are small, when human beings are babies and children and toddlers and growing up to the years 4 and 5 years old, sometimes they're very aware of that. They have little personal friends. They even name them. Some of them keep them from being afraid of the dark or the monster in the closet. And these are all things that children know about. But they're real. And then as they grow older, they go away. And sometimes that's because their parents say, well, no, honey, that's not really so. And you know that they're really not there. And so it's trained out of the children. Some children, they know better and they keep it to themselves. They'll say, okay, but when their parents are looking, they're still talking to them. But in general, my point is this. They come in with you. You don't have to call them in. So right now, where you sit, and in the circle of 12 later, I'm going to encourage you to see that in your own way, that they're with you now. And who is it that's with you? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Understand they're assigned to you as helpers. They're multidimensional. They're angelic. They're beautiful. They love you. And they're there to assist and help with healing, with fear, with attitudes, with redoing who you are. And they're there for your synchronicity. And that is the biggest thing I could tell you to keep you from stepping in the potholes of life. But they've always been there. I'd love to give this channel again and again and again, because I want you to feel filled with beauty, understanding, and the peace that goes with this. That you don't have to try that hard. All you have to do is release the old programming that says you have to try that hard. Again, for those of you who feel one way in the circle of 12 and you exit it, and then you feel another, this is for you. That when you get up from the circle of 12, having felt perhaps a healing energy, I want you to stop right there and say, thank you, Spirit, and thank you, guides, for being with me, because I need you now. Stay with me. Come with me. Be with me. I want you to claim it every day. Every morning you get up, to yourself perhaps, you can say, thank you, guides and angels, for being with me today. Continue the healing that I know that I deserve. That's, you might say, that's in the queue for me, that it's going to be there. And start getting used to it, dear ones, that there's more here than you think. And it's here because of the love that Spirit has for you, especially right now in these troubled times. Claim it. It's yours. Practice it and change your life. I'm Kryon in love with humanity. And so it is.